Well, South Africa has been described as the most unequal country in the world. This, of course, from our historic past where one race was given more privileges than the other. My next two guests come from very different backgrounds but have found a mutual understanding in their friendship and in music. Let's chat to them about their new project, Diversity 101. Danny K and Kabelo Mabalane join us in studio to talk to us. Good friends, nice to see you.
How's it, Lee?
It's so nice. I mean, I think that this is it's a great conversation to be coming from the two of you. But, I mean, before we talk about it, who wants to jump into it? What is Diversity 101 all about? Danny, you want to take that one?
Age before beauty. So
okay, Kabelo, you're up.
Lee, yeah, I don't need to tell you. I think there was a time in our country, many times, but I think there was a kind of a punctuated moment last year with the Katsavelos and the Mombergs, and there were like a lot of things that happened in a very short space of time, you know. And we got together, and I mean, you know our past from Shout as active citizens in this country, and we got together and we said, you know what, it's clear that you know there's a big gap between cultures, between people. You know, people are just numbers and desks in corporates, and they don't have tools to understand who kind of the next person is who's sitting next to them. And, you know, we use, you know, our friendship as a background, you know, to kind of teach and share, you know, principles that have helped us. And let me also, you know, say that we by no means are in La La Land and, you know, have our heads in the sand and, you know, kind of waving the rainbow nation flag. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. You know, people need to put in the work. If we want this country to work, you know, we have to put in the work. We have to understand our differences. We have to understand the past and the different dynamics that come with that.
Yeah, and it is a reality. There's a lot of work that needs to be done because, I mean, Danny, if we look at, I suppose you and I come from a very similar background, and whether we like to admit it or not, and I admit it all the time, from a privileged background. So, I mean, and you and Kabelo come from different backgrounds. So, I mean, talk to us about this link that the two of you have found and your perspective of where you come from.
Yeah, I mean, we were very fortunate that we've been able to kind of have a 20-year real friendship and partnership and navigate some of those challenges. But for many South Africans, until you reflect on your privileges, your past, as Kabelo said, where we've come from, very hard to establish a starting point. You know, we just get caught up in the noise of the media and Twitter and all these external forces that are really not providing us with solutions, but rather focusing on the problem. So our responsibility really as people that are lucky enough to come on shows like this and get into rooms of corporates or schools or institutions and universities is to say, look, we need true nation building, you know, true nation building. And it only really will begin if we take a very hard look, as I say, at our privileges, at our pasts, at racism, at gender inequality, at our stereotyping problems, at our biases. And, you know, if we can just shine a light and maybe see it through that prism, I think then we can at least start moving in the right direction. So that's what this whole campaign was about, you know. Diversity 101 is a keynote. It's a series of tools, toolkits, masterclasses, as Kabelo said, with a backdrop or blueprint of our lives to say it's not insurmountable. You know, no matter how vast your differences are, and you couldn't get more different than him and I, there really is ways to work together and go from, as our talk is called, being worlds apart to being partners.
Is it real or is it just a money-making scheme? I'm just saying what people would be thinking.
Well, I mean, look, I think public servants, you had a public servant who's sitting here, who's earning a salary, you know, so I see myself and Danny as public servants. I think we've paid our dues in terms of being considered as legitimate in nation building, you know, and we've got a 10-15 year history that proves that. And I don't think there's anything wrong in kind of carrying on from there and saying this is kind of public service. And if we're going to get paid for it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
And for every, I can tell you, Leanne, for every paid engagement we do, we probably do 3 or 4 to a school or a university that we don't get paid for. We work a lot with the Kathrada Foundation. You know, we do it we've always done more pro bono work than we have getting paid. But I think for real sustainability, and that's what we want to do, you know, we have to develop a model that at least allows us to be engaged. Otherwise, you're just like a missile, you know, you just get up, explode and burn out. So as Kabelo said, 15, 20 years from Shout to this, and we're still running Shout. I hope gives us that credibility, as you say.
Which is important, because I mean, if we just give up on it and carry on fighting, we're not going to get anywhere. So it has to start somewhere. Danny, I remember, and I'm trying hard in my mind to remember what it was when you got into a bit of a social media tour.
Yes.
As much as I really do, I also hate social media at the moment. I used to love it, but it's become
it's a
awful
necessary
place
evil
to be.
sometimes.
What
you know?
happened there?
I wrote out a series of tweets. One was, as we started off, reflecting on my privilege, my background. It wasn't really until Kabelo and I started reflecting on this work in my life that it really dawned on me, Leanne, about the enormous amount of privilege that I just was so unaware of.
Oblivious to.
Totally oblivious. And when I thought about the fact that, geez, you know, my father built a business in a time where the majority of this country were not competing with him. I went to private school by virtue of the fact that he earned a salary that justified me going to that school. I could go into studio, record an album. The head of my label was white. There was a connection. You know, all of these things that people that weren't in my privileged position would never have gotten, would never have been given to them. And, reflecting on this generationally unearned privilege, you know, really gave me a ton of perspective. And I tweeted out that, and it sat very awkwardly with people that I guess are very defensive about their privileges. And our talk goes into truly understanding privilege. And I think as a trigger word, when you just hear it and it's not explained to you or reflected in the correct way, you can get your back up. Yeah. And our job, I think, when we go into these rooms of people that will naturally and instinctively get defensive when something like privilege comes up, is to say, whoa. Yeah. Even being a man in South Africa is a privilege.
Absolutely.
Never mind being white, you know. But there's different things we need to think about.
Yeah, and this is the reality, and it is. It's something that a lot of white people do not admit to, and they'll still defend it. I say they, we, but it's a difficult conversation to have. Where you'll say, yeah, but I'm not privileged. I work really hard. But the reality is that we've been given the opportunities to be able to work hard with a backing, with parents, with grandparents, that people have had jobs and been able to enter places that black people were never able to enter.
Can I just say one thing? It's not mutually exclusive. You can work really hard, and you can be privileged.
Absolutely.
You know? It's not one or the other.
It's not one or the other. But Kabelo, quickly, why do we have to do this interview now when this could go on forever? Just give us your perspectives. I mean, being friends with a white guy listening to this, a lot of black people may say you're a sellout.
I think it's great to be able to, help him understand what he needs to own and what white people in this country need to own, and privilege is one of the many things, And when we start having a conversation like that, I think it really kind of opens it up for us to have that conversation. And I mean, I can be accused of many things, but sellout is something that I'm not. I mean, you can ask him. We have legitimate conversations, and it's really about nation building.
Amazing, guys. I wish I could continue, but good luck with the talk. Diversity 101. It's a whole roadshow and masterclass. If you want to find out more, get onto their website, no doubt. It's what's it? Diversity101.co.za. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Danny K, Kabelo Mabalane, talking about racial tensions, privilege, and all other issues in this country. Have a beautiful day. I hope I'm saying goodbye. Cheers. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone.